First, we've got to take a look at what the Wall Street really did. And after seesawing for most of the afternoon, the kind of move that you saw was that stocks ultimately closed lower. So when you take a look at both the S&P 500 as well as the 30 stock Dow, you saw an initial rally coming in there, rally to record highs after the Fed announced its rate cut decision, and after that you saw a little bit of a downtick coming in when it comes to both of these indices. Firstly, let's take a look at what the US Central Bank did, and of course we'll be delving into more detail into this, but the US Central Bank slashed its overnight lending rate to a range of 4.75 to 5% from 5.25 to 5.5%, which came as a surprise for some investors who also criticized the size of its initial cuts, but also something that was largely being penciled in for most investors. And this is the first rate cut reduction delivered from the Fed in 4 years as well, and that's the kind of handover that we have. Firstly, let's take a look at Dow. Closed lower by about 100 points, and that's the kind of move that we saw coming in for Dow as well. And the street, of course, was assessing Fed's supersized cut, and that is something that we saw playing out in the US markets. Largely, that's the kind of handover that we're looking at this morning. Let's also take a very quick look at Europe markets, and European markets closed slightly lower as investors also considered key data from the region, and this was of course when they were awaiting the US federal interest rate decision as well. Largely, that's the kind of handover that we're looking at when it comes to Wall Street. But let's take a quick look at crude as well then. And when you take a look at crude, what you're largely seeing is a slightly lower close coming in for crude as well. Oil prices closed slightly lower. So when you take a look at WTI or Brent, that's the kind of move that you're looking at. So when you take a look at WTI, downtick of about 28 cents or 0.4% coming in for WTI. So $70 per barrel is where WTI was at. And when you take a look at Brent as well, downtick of about just 5 cents coming in for Brent. $73 a barrel is where Brent was also at, so that largely is the kind of move that we're seeing. Now, on a year-to-date basis, you're seeing a decline come in for both of these contracts. So WTI on a year-to-date basis, downtick of about 1%, and Brent as well, downtick of about 4% on a year-to-date basis, and that's largely the kind of handover that we have. Of course, the oil market has been rattled this month by worries about a growing imbalance between supply and demand, and that's something that has kept the market on its toes. Largely, in US crude and global benchmark Brent of course fallen about 13% in the third quarter, and that largely is the kind of move that we saw. In terms of what else the market is keeping an eye on, of course there's geopolitical tensions that are escalating in the Middle East, and this is as fears grow about a major conflict between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah as well. And that is something that is likely to keep the market on its toes as well. Lastly, let's take a very quick look at gold as well, because gold eased after hitting that record high after that US Fed rate cut as well. So when you take a look at price moves, spot gold downtick of about 0.4% coming in, and that is after earlier rising to around 2,592 levels, and that was that record high coming in for gold as well, Cheryl.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.